Welcome to our deep dive. This one is into a family saga that is as captivating as it is unsettling. Um, the story of the Marcoses in the Philippines.
Oh, yeah.
Imagine a family
Okay.
so powerful
Yeah.
that they envision themselves as the Adam and Eve
Okay.
of their nation,
Wow.
shaping its destiny.
What's striking about the Marcoses is how their story, spanning generations,
Yeah.
reveals the mechanics of power, how it's seized, how it crumbles, and how, especially in our digital age, it can be completely reinvented.
We are going to discover how they climbed to the very top, experienced a dramatic fall from grace, and then orchestrated a surprising comeback,
Yeah.
rewriting their narrative along the way.
We've got a fascinating mix of sources for this deep dive,
Wow.
including insights from NPR's Throughline podcast, which digs deep into the historical context, and even a glimpse into a Miss Universe pageant
Oh, wow.
held in Manila.
The Marcoses were masters of spectacle,
Yeah.
understanding how to use media, grand events, and carefully crafted imagery.
Yeah. To shape their public image.
Let's rewind to the very beginning. A time of political intrigue, a murder mystery, and a love story that seems straight out of a Hollywood movie. It all starts with a young Ferdinand Marcos, a man driven by ambition and a hunger for a larger-than-life destiny. But then suddenly,
Yeah.
he finds himself at the center of a murder investigation.
Ferdinand,
Yeah.
at just 18 years old, was already a top student at the University of the Philippines. He was accused of murdering Julio Nalundasan, a political rival of his father. Sources even describe a coffin being paraded around with his father's name on it, a chilling act of provocation.
So instead of crumbling under the pressure of this accusation,
Yeah.
Ferdinand used the trial to craft his own legend,
Oh.
turning a potential downfall into a showcase of his intellect and charisma.
It's a classic move from the strongman playbook,
Yeah.
taking a negative situation and turning it into a public display of exceptionalism. He defended himself in court wearing a striking all-white suit and captivated everyone with his brilliance. The justices even acknowledged his potential, stating it would be a pity to imprison someone like him.
And then
Yeah.
enters Imelda Romualdez,
Okay.
a captivating beauty queen who would become Ferdinand's partner in this epic saga.
Wow.
Their love story is almost mythical, an 11-day courtship
Oh, wow.
that culminated in a whirlwind marriage.
It's almost Shakespearean. Ferdinand, the brilliant legal mind, the war hero, a narrative he carefully cultivated, and Imelda,
Right.
the stunning beauty who captured the nation's heart.
Wow.
Together, they formed a power couple, intentionally modeling themselves after Malakas and Maganda, the mythical first man and woman of the Philippines.
They were the Filipino equivalent of John and Jackie Kennedy.
Yeah.
The epitome of glamour and power.
Yeah.
They understood the influence of image and projected an aura of strength, beauty, and destiny.
Right.
They seemed destined for the spotlight.
That spotlight intensified as Ferdinand set his sights on the presidency. The Philippines in the 1960s
Yeah.
was a nation rebuilding after the devastation of World War II, yearning for stability and prosperity.
Yeah.
Ferdinand, with his wartime stories and promises of a great again nation, tapped into those desires perfectly.
He was more than just a candidate. He was crafting a national narrative.
Yeah.
He even commissioned a film about his life called Tadhana,
Okay.
which translates to Drawn by Destiny. They used cinematic techniques to solidify this idea
Wow.
that his presidency was preordained.
It was a brilliant tactic, weaving his personal story into the nation's aspirations. He made his political rise appear inevitable, almost divinely ordained.
Imelda played a crucial role, too. She cultivated this image of a modern yet traditionally rooted Philippines. Her iconic turno gowns, imagine these elegant dresses with beautiful butterfly sleeves,
Wow.
became symbols of national pride and
Yeah.
sophistication.
It's fascinating how clothing can become such a powerful tool in shaping national identity.
Yeah.
Imelda understood that.
Wow.
She created a visual language that resonated with Filipinos, blending tradition and modernity.
And so with a blend of charisma, savvy political maneuvering, and a carefully crafted media image,
Yeah.
Ferdinand Marcos ascended to the presidency in 1965, promising a great again Philippines.
No.
A theme
Yeah.
we've heard
Yeah.
echoed in politics
Yeah.
time and
Yeah.
time again.
It's a message that resonates deeply, especially in a nation seeking its place on the world stage.
Right.
But as we'll uncover,
Yeah.
the reality of Marcos's rule
Yeah.
would become far more complex, far more unsettling than the carefully constructed narrative he presented. Welcome back to our deep dive into the Marcos dynasty.
Okay.
When we left off, Ferdinand Marcos had just begun his presidency, promising a great again era for the Philippines.
Right.
However,
Yeah.
his pursuit of power took a dark and unsettling turn.
That carefully crafted image of unity and progress
Right.
we discussed
Yeah.
was about to face some serious challenges.
Yeah.
The late 1960s and early 70s were a turbulent time globally, and the Philippines was caught in the crosscurrents.
Exactly. Student protests, labor strikes,
Oh.
and a growing communist movement
Yeah.
all posed significant threats to Marcos's authority.
Right.
These events revealed the cracks beneath the surface of his seemingly stable regime.
So how did Marcos respond to this rising tide of opposition? Did he try to address the underlying issues fueling these protests?
Instead of embracing democratic principles and engaging with the dissent, Marcos doubled down on control.
Oh, wow.
In 1972,
Yeah.
he declared martial law, citing national security threats and a need to restore order. But for many, this was a thinly veiled power grab.
So essentially, the Philippines transformed from a fledgling democracy into a dictatorship overnight.
Yeah.
What were the immediate impacts of this shift on
Yeah.
Filipino people?
The effects were chilling. Imagine a society where protests are silenced,
Oh, wow.
media outlets are censored, and political opponents are imprisoned or worse.
Yeah.
Marcos created a climate of fear and repression.
It's a stark contrast to the image of a modern, progressive Philippines that he and Imelda
Yeah.
had so carefully cultivated.
Precisely. What's striking is how Marcos tried to maintain this facade of a disciplined, progressive nation while simultaneously engaging in ruthless suppression of any form of dissent. It was a two-faced regime, masking its brutality behind a veneer of development and national unity.
From what I understand, propaganda played a significant role in maintaining this illusion.
Oh, yeah.
Weren't there mandatory songs praising the new society and a constant barrage of images portraying Marcos as a benevolent leader? It sounds like something out of George Orwell's 1984.
You're absolutely right.
Yeah.
The Marcos regime heavily relied on propaganda to control the narrative and shape public perception. They understood the power of media and imagery in influencing how people thought and felt.
This period also brings up the complex role the United States played in supporting the Marcos regime.
Oh, yeah.
It was the height of the Cold War, and the U.S. was deeply involved in the Vietnam War.
Right.
The Philippines, with its strategic location in U.S. military bases, was a crucial ally. How did this dynamic impact U.S. foreign policy decisions?
The U.S. found itself in a difficult position.
Yeah.
They prioritized stability in the region and saw Marcos as a bulwark against communism, despite mounting evidence of human rights abuses under his regime. It was a pragmatic approach driven by Cold War anxieties.
So they turned a blind eye to the authoritarianism in exchange for strategic advantage.
Not entirely. It wasn't complete ignorance, but rather a complex balancing act between strategic interests and moral considerations. This aspect of U.S. foreign policy during the Cold War continues to be a subject of debate and scrutiny. It raises important questions about the compromises made in the name of national security and the long-term consequences of those choices.
While all of this was unfolding, the Marcoses were also putting on a grand show for the world.
Oh.
They hosted the Miss Universe pageant,
Oh, wow.
and an epic Thrill in Manila boxing match between Muhammad Ali and Joe Frazier.
Right.
These were major international events.
Exactly. These spectacles served multiple purposes.
Yeah.
They projected an image of a modern, vibrant Philippines on the global stage, diverting attention from domestic problems, and allowed Imelda to shine as a kind of international ambassador. Remember, she had a penchant for extravagant displays of wealth and power.
Speaking of extravagance, it's hard to ignore Imelda's lavish spending habits during this period. She amassed a vast collection of art, jewelry, and of course those infamous shoes, all while many Filipinos were struggling to make ends meet. How did her actions impact public perception of the Marcos regime?
The contrast between Imelda's opulent lifestyle and the widespread poverty in the Philippines was stark and became a source of growing resentment.
Right.
It fueled perceptions of the Marcoses as out of touch with the realities faced by ordinary Filipinos and highlighted the deep inequalities that plagued Philippine society.
Her extravagance became a symbol of the regime's corruption and excess.
Precisely. The Marcoses presented themselves as the embodiment of Filipino greatness, but their actions increasingly revealed a disconnect between their rhetoric and the lived experiences of many under their rule.
But even as they sought to control the narrative and project this image of strength and prosperity, the cracks in their facade were widening.
Right.
The growing discontent, fueled by economic inequality and political repression, was about to reach a boiling point.
You're right, and a pivotal moment that would forever alter the course of Philippine history was just around the corner. The assassination of Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr.
Oh, what?
in 1983 would prove to be a turning point, igniting a firestorm of opposition that the Marcoses could not contain.
Welcome back. Last time we left off with the assassination of Benigno Ninoy Aquino Jr.
Yeah.
This event really shook the Philippines.
Aquino's assassination was a turning point. It wasn't simply silencing another critic. It was a brazen act of violence that shattered the carefully crafted illusion of stability and order that the Marcoses had built.
So Aquino's death became a symbol of the regime's brutality,
Yeah.
igniting the opposition.
Exactly. It galvanized Filipinos from all walks of life.
Mm-hmm.
People who had been afraid to speak out now found their voice,
Yeah.
united in their grief and outrage. Think about it. The very tools of propaganda that the Marcoses had wielded so effectively were suddenly turned against them.
And this is where the people power revolution comes in, right?
Yeah.
This incredible display of nonviolent resistance that ultimately brought down the Marcos regime.
Precisely. Aquino's widow, Corazon Cory Aquino, emerged as a powerful symbol of hope and democratic renewal. She became a rallying point for a nation yearning for change.
What was it about Cory Aquino that resonated so deeply with the Filipino people?
She represented a stark contrast to the Marcoses. She was seen as honest, humble, and deeply connected to the struggles of ordinary Filipinos. Her image as a grieving widow, thrust into the political spotlight, resonated with people who were tired of the Marcoses' excesses and abuses of power.
The People Power Revolution is often cited as one of the most inspiring examples of nonviolent resistance in modern history. What made it so unique and effective?
It was a truly remarkable moment.
Yeah.
Millions of Filipinos from all walks of life poured into the streets, demanding Marcos' resignation. They faced down tanks, prayed the rosary, and sang songs of freedom. It was a testament to the power of collective action and the unwavering belief in democratic ideals.
It must have been an incredibly powerful and emotional experience to witness.
It was. It was a moment that showed the world the strength of the human spirit in the face of oppression. It demonstrated that even the most entrenched dictatorships are vulnerable to the power of the people when they unite for a common cause.
And ultimately, it was this outpouring of people power that forced Marcos to flee the country, ending his decades-long rule.
In 1986, Marcos, Imelda, their family, and a mountain of belongings, including those infamous shoes, were airlifted to Hawaii. This marked the end of an era. A family that had positioned themselves as larger-than-life, almost mythical figures, was suddenly reduced to symbols of corruption and tyranny.
But the story doesn't end there. The Marcoses, even in exile, never relinquished their quest for power.
Yeah.
Ferdinand died in Hawaii in 1989, but his body remained unburied for years. This became a focal point for Imelda's efforts to rehabilitate their family name and legacy.
It's almost as if Imelda used his unburied body as a political symbol, a reminder of their unfinished business in the Philippines.
And surprisingly, it worked. In 2016, with the support of then-President Rodrigo Duterte, Ferdinand Marcos was finally buried in the Heroes Cemetery in Manila.
That burial was highly controversial, seen by many as a symbolic victory for the Marcoses and a deliberate attempt to rewrite history.
And then, just 6 years later, Ferdinand Bongbong Marcos Jr., the son of the late dictator, was elected president of the Philippines. It's a stunning turn of events.
It's a comeback story that raises profound questions about the enduring power of political dynasties, the allure of strongman leaders, and the fragility of democratic institutions, even in a country that experienced a people's revolution.
So the Marcos saga is far from over. It continues to shape the political landscape of the Philippines and serves as a cautionary tale for democracies worldwide.
Yeah.
What insights can we draw from this complex and captivating story? What does it tell us about the nature of power, the importance of truth and accountability, and the ongoing struggle for democracy?
The Marcos story highlights how easily history can be manipulated and how narratives can be shaped to serve political agendas. It underscores the importance of critical thinking, media literacy, and a deep understanding of the past. It's a reminder that democracy is not a given. It requires constant vigilance and active participation from engaged citizens.
It's been a fascinating deep dive into a story that's both captivating and unsettling. The Marcoses, with their blend of charisma, political savvy, and ruthlessness, left an indelible mark on the Philippines.
Right. Their story continues to resonate today, offering valuable lessons about the complexities of power, the allure of strongman leaders, and the enduring struggle for democracy in a world grappling with misinformation and historical revisionism. Thank you for joining us on this journey through one of the most fascinating and turbulent chapters in modern political history.